scheduled sleeping habits are associated with a sound health. Adults with the healthiest sleep patterns such as morning rising, sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day and no frequent insomnia, snoring or excessive daytime sleepiness, experienced a 40% reduction in the risk of illness, compared to those with unhealthy sleep patterns.
Another basis of conflict between scientists is the means by which Mars with its freezing surface temperature could accommodate fluid water, causing the affidavits of waterways and lakes noticeable on the planet today. Fluid water is a precondition for the collecting of natural particles, which is the thing that occurred at about 4 billion years back during the development of life on Earth.
As English became the predominant language around the world, tremendous number of individuals are learning it. The time of English language procurement is likewise bringing down simultaneously. Actually, I trust it is essential for an individual from a non-English talking network to learn English, yet I think it isn't important to do as such until a youngster is around 7 or 8.
In certain nations, for instance Germany, the support rate for ladies in the labor force is low compared to the worldwide guidelines. Despite the fact that I can't give a figure, I know that even college graduates regularly become housewives after marriage. They stay home doing the daily house duties. Thus, special efforts needs to be taken to encourage them to get some employment.
Communication is a gift to mankind. These days, with the quick advancement of innovation, an ever-increasing number of individuals, including my colleagues and family members, have gotten associated with the Internet, a computerized framework, wherein computers speak with one another through satellites. Many workplaces and systems have the Internet backing to do their daily activities.
The idea of an aeroplane, or rather the technique behind propelling an object into the air, has been around for well more than 2,000 years. Nonetheless, it wasn't until the disclosure of the response standard, which was the key to travel in the air, and it represents one of the great milestones in the history of scientific discoveries, that jet fuel innovation was able to develop.
Talking about energy sources, coal is relied upon to keep on representing just about 37% of the world's energy needs. In any case, with developing worldwide consciousness of weights on the climate, and the need to accomplish practical improvement of energy assets, the way in which the resource is extracted, transported and used is critical.
The government has been financing a new loan scheme for undergraduates, for their degree since September 2010. These credits are accessible as a top-up to the standard award. Despite the fact that the advance is proposed to enhance the award for living costs, the qualification for an understudy loan isn't limited to the individuals who get a maintenance award.
Travelers often face delays and cancellations, so it is important that they do not allow it to ruin their trip. Also, it's sometimes hard to communicate with the natives. Although booking in advance is the key, but many times, things has to be done in the last moments. You will have a much better trip if you are prepared for plans to change, and you are able to see the funny side if they go wrong.
Initially seen purely as centers of entertainment, zoos were often heavily criticized in society for keeping animals captive. Nowadays, however, zoos have a lot more to offer than perhaps some people realize. Good zoos have changed their focus and are now responding to environmental problems, such as the decline in wildlife and loss of habitat.
A study has discovered that nonsensical research papers generated by a computer software are still appearing in the scientific literature many years after the problem was originally noticed. Some publishers have informed the group that they will remove the papers, potentially resulting in over 200 retractions.
The human mind has a specific network dedicated to memorizing human faces, but it's still a mystery how those memories form. As the participants watched photos of celebrities, show actors, or lab members, the researchers measured their brain activity. The subjects' brains revealed a rise in a certain activity pattern about half a second after seeing a familiar face.
In some societies, such as the United States, having a green-grassed front yard is not only considered attractive, but also a status signal. It's so crucial, in fact, that some communities have made it illegal not to grow grass. But what if we put this land to a more productive use? What if we considered our community's land as a resource that could give everyone with free food?
Many firms nowadays interact internally using internal instant messaging software, which might be worse than email because the notification sounds and pop-ups might be endless. One multinational corporation has attempted to eliminate distractions by prohibiting the use of push notifications. According to one report, they were able to reclaim 25% of their work time while also increasing customer satisfaction and efficiency by 30%.
Some individuals would like to believe if they choose to be an early bird or a night owl. However, the truth is very different. Your circadian cycle is mostly responsible for this. A circadian rhythm is a natural cycle of energy levels that is influenced by genetics as well as light exposure. It regulates how much energy you have at different times of the day and when you go to bed.
Many people believe that waves only occur in the ocean, yet the world's largest wave occurs in the Amazon River in Brazil. The Atlantic Ocean's water flows into the river between February and March each year, forming the world's longest wave. Each wave may reach a height of nearly 4 meters and persist for more than half an hour.
It's simple to see how a loss in daily life has a significant impact on at least some animals. It just goes to prove that animals may experience emotions similar to humans. Other intriguing issues have arisen as a result of this revelation. If animals can experience sadness, what other human emotions may they experience? Are there any emotions that animals express that humans do not?
You might have heard a proverb, "One man's trash is another man's treasure." However, this narrative isn't simply about the worth of goods. It's also about the worth of people. People recognize we shouldn't toss rubbish out carelessly, and we shouldn't toss them aside either. The landfill company demonstrates that the waste we produce has an impact on the entire ecosystem and not just humans.
Are you a believer in superstitions? Although most individuals would answer no, many of us live our lives making bizarre decisions. In the United States, Friday the 13th is considered so unlucky that 10,000 fewer individuals travel on that day. Additionally, businesses suffer on that day since fewer people travel. The negative impacts of the unlucky number aren't confined to travel.
The quantity of sunlight we receive each day has an impact on our vitamin D production and our circadian clock. Our internal timing, the circadian clock, informs us when to wake up and when to sleep. It also has the potential to disrupt our metabolism and neurochemicals. It's probable that the way our circadian clock is first established at the time of our birth has long-term consequences for our health.
Aquatic organisms like plankton are small creatures that live in the water and provide nourishment for many of the ocean species. In the year 2000, the ocean had 6 pounds of plastic for every pound of zooplankton. In today's world, every pound of zooplankton contains 60 pounds of trash. According to some predictions, the ocean will have more plastic than fish by 2050.
When done on a regular basis, physical activity has been shown to increase an individual's well-being. Physical activity can assist to reduce the risk of chronic illnesses such as heart disease and stroke, as well as obesity, diabetes, and some malignancies. The national guidelines for adults recommend at least 20 minutes of moderate-intensity physical exercise each day to gain health benefits.
The colonial institution has a lengthy and illustrious history that dates back over 200 years. Many of the persons who have worked here are scientists themselves, such as Albert Einstein. He produced breakthroughs that made it simpler to produce and use electricity, allowing us to do things like switch on lights, cook dinner, and play video games on consoles.
Long shut off from Western Europe, Russia grew up without participating in events such as the reforms, which many Russians who are proud of their own culture believe to be of dubious significance. As a result, Russia is the oddest member of the European family, despite the fact that it is not truly European. The topic is still being debated, especially among Russians.
Each cell has numerous characteristics that define it as a living entity. Cells, the most fundamental unit of life, make up all living things. They can reproduce and have heritable genetic material in the form of DNA. They transcribe DNA into RNA on chromosomes, which they then translate into proteins. They also have the ability to regulate transport across a cell membrane and are necessary for a variety of cellular processes that require chemical energy.
Sunlight is an excellent source of power for homes and businesses, and by utilizing it, you are not only saving the environment from pollution but also conserving the world's natural resources. Solar energy emits no pollutants and has no negative environmental consequences. One of the reasons why many people are still hesitant to use solar energy is its high cost.
Municipal employees have access to a diverse range of employment opportunities. It not only provides pleasant and acceptable working conditions, but also plenty of other extra perks. As a consequence, it is always lucrative and advantageous to join the firm. It's also worth mentioning that Civic provides good and helpful services to its employees while also caring for their well-being. Akimbo has to be one of the strangest words in the language. It perplexes us in part because it appears to have no relatives. Furthermore, it is now almost a fossil term, though it is almost always found in arms. Akimbo is a stance in which a person stands with their hands on their hips and their elbows sharply bent outward, indicating impatience and animosity.
The next generation of industrial manufacturing leaders will create an ecosystem that leverages the promise of analytics and connectivity to optimize productivity for themselves and their clients. They will map out their strategies and prioritize the measures that will add the most value to their enterprise, beginning with pilot projects and creating higher strengths in data analytics through cross-functional collaboration.
Flags can and often do bring a nation together. A nation that can look to its flag flying high above the landscape in times of trouble and remind that the nation will survive. People who have never met before should feel a sense of belonging to the same country and flying the same flag.
A young man from a small provincial village, without independent wealth, influential family connections, or a university education, moved to London in the late 1580s and rose to prominence in a strikingly short period of time, thanks to the greatest playwright of all time. Shakespeare. How did he become Shakespeare?
According to data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, borrowing for education has advanced faster in percentage terms than all other forms of consumer debt, including mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards, since 2003. Student loans accounted for 10.5% of a record $13.1 trillion in household debt as of the fourth quarter, up from 3.3% at the start of 2003.
Plato often explores the father-son relationship and whether a father's interest in his sons has anything to do with how well his sons turn out. A boy's social identity in ancient Athens was determined by his family identity, and Plato often refers to his characters in terms of their parental and fraternal relationships. Socrates was not a family man and considered himself as his mother's son.
Many college papers may require you to include quotes from one or more sources. Even if you are not required to do so, incorporating a few quotations into your writing will help to bring your arguments to life and make them more compelling. The key is to use quotations to support a point you're going to make rather than to fill space.
The universities of Europe experienced immense growth, competitiveness, and innovative research during the early modern era. At the end of the Middle Ages, approximately 400 years after the founding of the first European university, there were 29 universities scattered throughout Europe.
The primary production of soft drinks began in the 1830s, and since then, there has been an evolution until 1781, when the world's first cola-flavored beverage was introduced. These drinks were dubbed soft drinks to distinguish them from hard alcoholic beverages. Today, soft drinks are more popular as a refreshment drink than tea, coffee, juice, and so on.
The Bermuda Triangle is a fictional area of the Atlantic Ocean bordered by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico where hundreds of ships and aircraft have vanished. Some of these occurrences are shrouded in mystery, such as one in which the pilots of a squadron of U.S. Navy bombers became disoriented while flying over the area. The aircraft were never discovered.
Domestication is a developmental, instead of a political improvement. It is certainly not an administration people forced on creatures about 50,000 years ago. Or maybe domestication happened when a little modest bunch of particularly deft species found through Darwinian trial and blunder that they were more likely to outlive and thrive in an organization together with people than by themselves.
Coconut oil, one of the most prevalent natural dandruff remedies, may help eliminate some of the yeast that contributes to flakes, according to Geeta Shah, MD, a dermatologist in Maryland. She suggests massaging a small amount onto your scalp for at least 15 to 20 minutes.
Road bike jumping is a cycle sport that teaches street bikers on clear streets. In terms of rivals, events, and spectators, street racing is the most popular professional frame of bike racing. The two most common competition types are mass start events, in which riders start at the same time and race to a predetermined finish line, and time trials, in which individual riders race to a predetermined finish line.
The Earth has just experienced the hottest month in recorded history, and it is much hotter than usual. The record comes after a string of unusually hot months. Not only does it break the all-time record set a year ago, but it also extends a now 10-month streak of months that are the hottest on record, according to NASA statistics. Temperatures are calculated slightly differently by the Atmospheric Administration.
Integration is becoming increasingly important in the business world. This requirement stems from the need for efficiency and synergy in a complex and turbulent environment. In other words, integration is required to promote coordination, which is linked to the creation of competitive advantage.
Liverpool University is located in the heart of two world-famous cities, Liverpool and London, and its excellence in teaching, learning and study, first-class facilities, and excellent support place it in the top 1% of universities globally. In a varied international community, the University of Liverpool will provide you with an inspiring student experience.
Most non-Japanese are familiar with traditional tea ceremony, including its history, complexities, and religious roots. However, few people outside of Japan have a thorough understanding of the practice's esoteric meaning. Even in Japan, the secret meaning of tea ceremony is only known to those who have dedicated their lives to the practice.
Smartphones are an everyday necessity for millions of people. We use them for everything from social media updates to banking. Getting a smartphone contract that bundles your calls, data, and texts with the cost of the handset will help spread the cost, but it can also mean you'll pay more in the long run.
Avalanche is a huge mass of snow, ice, soil, rock, or a combination of these materials that slides or falls in response to gravity's force. Avalanches, which are natural forms of erosion that are often seasonal, are typically categorized according to their content, such as a debris or snow avalanche.
They say, being overweight is not good for confidence, and it can lead to other health problems. Most people need some motivation or guidance when it comes to exercise. Thus, joining a fitness club is maybe the best solution. However, finding a local fitness club that suits your needs might not be so easy.
An earthquake has many stages. Firstly, there are small ones, called foreshocks, which occur in the same place as the larger earthquake that follows. Scientists do not know that an earthquake is a foreshock until the larger earthquake occurs. And there is the main part of the earthquake, which is called the main shock.
Nearly 3.5 million people now work from home in the United Kingdom. That is around 12% or 1 in 8 of the population and is an increase of 600,000 since the mid-90s. Advances in technology, the growth of home computer and laptop ownership, and the development of the Internet are key drivers of this trend.
During 1990, many changes of fly-in and fly-out schedule were a significant development. Suddenly, the coast was in easy reach of Britain's largest industrial cities. At the same time as the Industrial Revolution was having an impact and working conditions were improving, hundreds of thousands of people were given free days and short holiday breaks.
In most countries nowadays, people are encouraged to dispose of unwanted computers in an appropriate way. In some countries, there are strict laws about the disposal of computers and computer equipment, and people are not allowed to simply throw them away. Thus, they have a number of options when disposing of an unwanted machine.
Obesity in the developing world is the result of a series of changes in diet and nutrition, physical activity, and general health, collectively known as the nutrition transition. As poor countries become richer, they acquire some of the problems, as well as the benefits, of industrialized nations.
According to a new study just published, the world tobacco demand is expected to increase until the year 2025 due to population and income growth, but at lower rates than in the past. The report maintains that while in developed countries, tobacco smoking will continue to decline, in developing countries its consumption will rise.
Most of the major retailers now see the internet as an opportunity, rather than as competition. The biggest supermarkets and department stores have all announced a huge growth in online sales over the last year. An ever-growing percentage of consumers prefer to shop online, and even those who still enjoy a traditional visit to the main street retailers go online first to check out product choices and prices.
The resume selection is an important step in the process of recruiting new staff. The employer's role in this process is to find those potential employees whose skills and experience look good on paper, and who should be contacted for an interview. But what to look for in a resume is not always clear. The main aim is to focus on the content provided, such as past experience, skills, and abilities.
There is a growing number of people for whom the traditional 9-to-5 job simply no longer works. They may have family commitments and other reasons why they need to be at home during the day. Many simply prefer working from home because of the flexibility it offers. Many women find themselves in this situation because they find it difficult to go back to an ordinary job once they have children.
The academic texts come from books, journals, and magazines, and are generally more professional in style. There are no advertisements, leaflets, or information pages. You will need to deal with more vocabulary that you don't know, and you will meet more grammatically complex structures. The academic exam is more difficult, but you will be able to apply the reading skills you learnt in your future job profile.
Revision doesn't have to be boring. It is boring if you do it for too long or try to do it all at once. It will make you feel anxious if you try to revise too much. Remember that revision means looking back at what you have learnt, not trying to learn things that you haven't learnt yet. Remember that the important thing is to improve your all-around reading skills, so continue to follow the advice from the previous review sections.
Many people believe that the fear of going to prison deters people from committing crimes. People who might do wrong have to think again if they know that the punishment will mean being locked up. Some statistics suggest that in countries where punishment for certain crimes is very severe, the rate for that crime has fallen. Other people argue that people commit crimes because they are desperate, thus have no fear.
Bullying in the workplace is far more common than most people imagine. This type of bullying may be related to your race, your gender, your age, your religion, a disability, or simply happen because somebody doesn't like your tastes or views on life. You may experience one isolated case or a persistent campaign over a period of time.
Sending an email is a new way of communication. But remember that people cannot see your face or hear the tone in your voice when you send an email, so they may not understand when you are trying to be humorous. Something was written in a word format often comes across very differently. Because written remarks generally come across as far harsher than something said.
Items that are contaminated by petrol, paint, or acid must not be washed in a dishwasher. Never run the appliance with the door open. Always turn the appliance off before opening the door. Knives with long blades are potentially dangerous if stored in this appliance. Do not sit or stand on the door when it is open. Unplug the appliance and disconnect the water supply if you are away from your home for an extended period.
What is the oldest man-made structure in the world? In the last 10 years, archaeologists in Japan say they have answered that question twice. However, the second discovery, made by one of Japan's leading archaeologists, was shown to be a case of fraud. Incidentally, in 2003, the truth came out. A senior archaeologist had planted the tools so that he could take credit for such an important discovery.
The River Nile is the longest river in the world, and it has always brought life to Egypt. Around 95% of the population of Egypt lives within 20 kilometers of this great source of water. When the river dam was completed in 1970, it affected every person in the country. The dam prevented flooding that had previously destroyed homes and crops, generated electricity, and it provided water for a much greater program of agriculture.
Membership for fitness clubs can be expensive, so you want to be happy with the club you choose and you want to visit as often as possible. If you only go once a month or stop going completely, you will waste a lot of money. There are usually some great offers available at fitness clubs. You can use reviews to find the right club in your area, But then it's up to you to get yourself there and to start getting in shape.
Presently, the aim of governments all over the world is to reduce the amount of waste that we need to get rid of. Organic material that contains little or no heavy metals can be detoxified biologically. This is done by composting and land farming. Firstly, to reduce the amount of waste that is created in the first place, and then to reuse and recycle waste rather than discard it.